All right, welcome students. This is the third project. You're only required to do two of the three projects. There is the nesting project and the house, and this is the object. Trompe l'oeil means to fool the eye. You only have to do two of the three projects, and I'm looking for you to be very creative. Last year, the Pottery II students, I was very impressed. They all have their own direction that they went. Use the things that interest you to drive your own creativity. So trompe l'oeil means to fool the eye. This project is kind of a slab-based project, but it can be more sculptural. And so you're making some sort of an object, replicating that object in clay. Be creative. All right, so working with realism, subjects looking as if they do are as they do in real life is a tradition for many artists. You will find an object to recreate in clay. Your sculpture's dimensions should be around 4 by 6. I'm usually pretty loose with parameters. If you are going very small, be very creative or more detailed with it. If you're going very large, really monitor the dryness and things like that. Large does getting something as large as a toolbox or something the size of your computer or larger can be complex. So I would recommend keeping it in a medium size. And if you're going very, very small, then I would suggest being very creative or creating more pieces to it. So think about these objects that you want to communicate to the viewer. How does hyper-realistic facsimile add meaning to the object? What does it mean to make something that's an object but is only a replica? Create your own object or still life. All objects should be hollow. If we're slab building, that's not a problem. But if you're creating something more of a pot, I would hollow it out or pinch pot it like we usually do. If you've got something very, very large, I would caution you to create it, hollow it out so that it's no bigger than an inch thick, any of the walls. So you don't want to go through a lot of work and have it blow up in the kiln. All right. So do your research, create, you're going to go into the reflection log and kind of post some of your reflection and your observations and maybe your sketchbook sketches. Just kind of show me that you have thought this through and done some of the problem solving ahead of time, done a little bit of research, kind of looked online, Google some different things that are interesting and show me your line of thinking there. What types of objects do they make? How are they arranged, displayed, observed? When looking at objects, remember the following. Can you take it to school? Have it always available through building and painting? Does its size proportion rely on the strength and stability of the materials? Is it skinny or stringy? So think about that. Create a maquette. Now, a maquette is just basically a paper model that you've kind of created. And so kind of do a little bit of your pre-planning ahead of time. Think about how something is going to go together, how it's going to hold up with clay. You've got enough experience now, I believe, with clay to know its limitations. So think about that. All right, solve your problems as far as your construction. What are the expected challenges that you may have? Communicate with each other. Certainly email me or also put in Classroom. There's a comments section under each posting. So if you have commonly asked questions, you can post those in there. In the nesting and in the other slab building, we will be kind of looking at some resources that we use that are household items. So you might find something that has some texture. You might have some things that you need to use to roll out your clay. Maybe you need to use a PVC pipe or a rolling pin that in your kitchen. Use some kitchen tools that you have. Just make sure you rinse them off and wash them well for kitchen use. And then you're rolling out on a piece of cloth. So you might have to find maybe a cloth tablecloth or something like that that will work well as tools and resources. In the nesting project, we're nesting. If you're wanting to use something to slump, I would suggest finding some paper or plastic bowls that would work well for that. So we're going to really be gaining some problem solving skills and some resourcefulness through this online learning. All right, here's some examples. So these aren't our student examples, but these were examples that I found online. Some really interesting ones. Football, I had a student last year, and I don't think I have a picture of it finished, but some students went together and made a skateboard. So you're thinking about some things that are of interest to you and how it reflects you. So food, I know every teenager loves food, so you could create a dish with some food on it. Your tennis shoes or the types of shoes you wear really reflect who you are. So be thinking about some of those things that are of interest to you. Here are some examples of projects in process. You have that item in front of you that you're replicating. Look at your shoe carefully and see how it's constructed, and see how you could perhaps make a paper pattern first and then assemble those items. Here are some artists. I'll have the slideshows in Classroom as well as this demo slideshow. And here's some artists that you can look at to kind of help you look at some different things. So here is one of those artists, is Sylvia Hyman, and she made these are all made out of clay. They look like realistic items, or hyper realistic, as we kind of talked about. And this is kind of the work that she does. Richard Shaw, also same kinds of thing, and there is a video of him working. So if you wanted to kind of look at that, that will be in the slides that is not recorded like this one. I'll have this slideshow that's unrecorded as well. Very realistic items. And then you could take it another direction and use sgraffito to decorate. These are very cool. Clay and using just black and white. Here is also some very earthy looking things. So some things that aren't real and some things that aren't have realistic qualities to them. So is a video link to this artist. So if you want to find out more about this artist, Eric Suratelli, um, sure do. Pretty cool. Marilyn Levine, she's been around a long time, but she creates quite a few things that look a lot like real leather, and these are all made out of clay. These are things that are pretty advanced. So please know that I'm not, and these artists have worked on their craft, did all the problem solving, trial and error, and things like that. Probably had a lot more failures at first before they had these successes. So please know that that is something that we will consider as you're working on stuff. Hyper realistic is really cool, but it takes some time. So just keep that in mind. All right, this is actually a Norwalk artist. He graduated from Norwalk probably about 10 or more years ago. His name's Mitchell Spain. He actually still lives in Norwalk and creates these. You should look him up. I have a link to his website in the slides. And he creates these. These are made out of molds, and he didn't paint these labels on them. You can create your own, and this is more of an advanced technique of creating your own labels and decals. And so that's what he's using here for his artwork. But they're really cool. They look very realistic. The glaze he uses to make it look rusty is pretty impressive. All right, here are some recent student examples from last year. So here's food, here's a bus, and if you know these students, this kind of fits their personalities. Tevka Lockman's Volkswagen VW bus. And then I put in this Pottery I students that they're probably watching this. Serenity and Marin made this purse, Louis Vuitton purse. And so those are something examples. Evie Plattner here made these chickens. These were actually an alternate project, but they kind of fit. Consider maybe sculptural animals or something like that as part of the project. And this is another one, a shoe. So be thinking about what you're planning on doing and kind of do the pre-planning and maybe making paper patterns to what you're going to roll out your slabs. And I look forward to your ideas. There is a comment section in when you post in Classroom that you could post commonly ask questions, and or if you have more of an individual question, feel free to shoot me an email and I will be answering those pretty regularly. So happy making!